This PowerPoint should help you when you're thinking about ideas to help you design plans for individual students using database decisions. There are three types of learning problems: when the student is making no progress, when the student is making progress but it's too slow, and when the student is showing regression or variable progress. We're going to talk about the ideas for each one of those types of problems. The first one is when the student is making no progress. You can simplify the skill. You can do that in one of four ways listed here. The first one is to use assistive technology examples. If the student is not able to point to pictures that you're providing, or if they're not able to identify information that's being presented to them, we could provide them with a more consistent way to respond or opportunities to respond by providing assistive technology for the student. Another one is to simplify the form of the examples. If we're asking the student to say the word and they're unable to say the word, again, if we can provide them assistive technology, that would help, but also they may be able to point to the word. For example, if we're asking the student to identify their colors or their color words, and if we present the word to the student, they may be able to point to the color if they cannot say the word. You may simplify the materials, not learning to read a sight word, but they could use a logo to identify that information instead. So we can simplify the materials, again, to provide them the opportunity to show what they're learning. Another way is to use forward or backward chaining. Again, if the student's not able to follow the picture recipe, we may again teach either the first steps or the last few steps, and then build the other steps in over time, so that we're not doing the total task, but we can use pieces of the task. We may use one step, we may use 3 steps, but it will simplify the expectation for the student's performance, and then we work with them to complete the rest of the task. If the progress is too slow for the student, there again are 5 ways that we can address that. The first one is our prompt hierarchy, is again to follow if we're using a verbal prompt, a model prompt, and a physical prompt for the students, so that we're not jumping from a verbal to a physical, but we're going through a consistent prompt hierarchy, and that all individuals who are working with the child uses the consistent prompt hierarchy. One of the biggest issues for our population of students is that they become prompt dependent. They will sit and wait until the prompt is provided to them. And we want to make sure that we are fading those prompts over time so that students develop some initiation of the skills and initiate the response themselves. So we want to make sure that we are reinforcing that initiation when the students are beginning to learn those skills. We can start using non-specific prompts as well. Instead of prompting them to the correct response that we want, we can prompt them to what's next, or what do you think the next step would be, and so forth, so that we can fade that. There may be a need for more training trials throughout the day. We can do a repeated trial, we can do a repeated opportunity, which is to add more times where they naturally occur across the day. So we want to make sure that we give them opportunity, maybe even to warm up on those skills, a little quick review of the skills before they have to apply them. And then once our student is learning to initiate the skills, they can do them, then we only want to start reinforcing the independent correct responses. We want to praise those responses and not praise the prompted responses that the students require. Lastly, if the student is working and they're performing in a variable way, or they're regressing across their skills and it's not related to a medical or behavioral issue, there's different ways to improve motivation. We want to make sure that we're allowing the students to maybe have choices embedded throughout the skill or the task that we're providing them. If we're dealing with books or text, maybe they choose the text that we're doing. We also can provide the opportunities for the students to self-monitor, to graph their own progress over time. We can also vary the reinforcement when the reinforcement occurs and what the reinforcement is.